My professional background starts at the age of 10, believe it or not. I was one of those kids that was fortunate enough to grow up with a computer close by at my grandparents' house. And I started faxing local businesses a letter asking them if they wanted a website designed. Needless to say, that business didn't last very long. My grandparents got their phone bill, and at the time I think it was a couple of dollars a fax, and that was promptly shut down. But I've always been a child of the internet, and as a consequence I've always been involved in the shaping of experiences. I continued to learn about the internet and the web. I taught myself how to design websites at the time, how to build them as well, and that was really an interest that has been with me my entire life. I started a freelance business as a teenager, continued that on all the way through to the end of university, and then found myself working in design technology agencies, both in Wellington and in Auckland. And not long after I left the design agency I was working for, I started the Space InBetween and continued to pursue that as a passion. Did for many years designed and built products, the type that people would come here to learn how their users are using them and shape them better, and know firsthand just how difficult that challenge is and how important it is to actually have the people that they're designed for using them, so the people making them can see what that's like. The best way to test the user experience of the product is not to rely solely on your analytics. That's only going to tell you where you might have problems. You need to actually put someone who represents the people you've made it for in the hot seat and see what that experience is like for them. And really what you're there to do is to observe, to sit back, to watch, to understand where they're struggling, and also to understand why they're struggling. Like I said before, analytics are great and they're certainly necessary, but they're not going to give you the context of the problems that you're observing in those reports. The only way you can do that is to actually see a real person using the software and to ask them some questions about that experience that you've seen them having. So the benefit of doing this form of testing, particularly early on in the design of a product or service, is that you pick up the things that are going to catch you out if you launch it and you don't do this type of testing. So you're going to find the obvious issues that exist in the user experience. You'll learn how people are interpreting and understanding what it is that's been in your head that you've put down into a product. You'll find where they're connecting with language, where they're not connecting with language. You'll find a whole bunch of interesting things about their mental models, how they see the world, how your software fits into that mental model. You'll discover things that you could just not discover if you kept that closely held within the company or within the design team. So this is really essential for mitigating the risk of launching something that hasn't actually yet been in front of the people that it's for. So this is a very sensible thing for businesses to be doing, for design teams and product teams to be doing, to take out that risk before you put it in the hands of the market. At the moment, possibly unsurprisingly due to the pandemic, remote user experience testing, usability testing, customer interviews, these sorts of things has become incredibly popular. Of course, there was a really good health reason for that during that period, and now it's really continued and it's become the predominant way of doing this. And there are many benefits of doing remote testing. It's often easy to facilitate through the tools that exist. There is a wider pool of participants that you can pull from because you're not bound to any particular location. But what it lacks, and having facilitated many of these research sessions with remote teams, is it lacks the true ability for the team to understand in real time and align on what it is that they've seen. The conversation between the design team or the product team that's observing, or it could be other business stakeholders as well, just doesn't flow as freely as it does in a physical environment. There's always been an element of doubt for me as a facilitator that I've really hit the mark with people and they really know what they've seen and what it means for the product going forward. What I've seen in a space like this is the opposite. People are lively, they're engaging, they're able to discuss in real time with no friction what it is they've seen, what it means, what they might do to address it, it really just flows a lot easier. It's also brilliant for stakeholders to come along and get involved. They're not just sitting on another Zoom call, wondering when their next one is. You know that they're paying attention and they're engaged. It's a whole different experience being here in person with people, which is so critical these days when we've become so comfortable with not being with people, with being remote and all going a little crazy in our own bedrooms while we're working remotely. So this is a really special environment for that to happen. My vision for the Space InBetween was really quite simple. It was to create a physical space for the New Zealand design and product community primarily, and researchers, to be able to do these kind of in-person research experiences. I started looking overseas, particularly at London and over in the west coast of the US, the areas where we seek a lot of inspiration from in terms of our practice, and found that there were many facilities like this where designers, researchers, business people could come together and do this really critical human-centered design activities, whether it's design workshops or research. And there was nothing. There was no space like this space that exists in New Zealand before the Space InBetween was created. The Space InBetween is also set up with a state-of-the-art experience room. This is where people come in, and whether it be on desktop or mobile, we put them in front of the software or the designs that the teams have created. All of that is relayed via some state-of-the-art technology up to the country's largest observation room, which comfortably accommodates 12 people. So the entire team, whether it's designers, business people, or product people, can be there together, researchers to actually see in live, real time what is going on down below. When people reserve access to the Space InBetween, that access is 100% exclusive. There is nobody else here, just you and your team and what you're there to focus on. And being with your team, being together physically in the same space, is really the thing that sets the Space InBetween apart, because you know that when you leave here, that you're aligned, you're on the same page, and everyone's got a clear understanding of what needs to happen next.